It's interesting that you bring this up because I found myself just prior to you bringing it up thinking about a heat map analogy of
Mm.
the ontology question that we were exploring before. Because if I was culturally imprinted with an ontology that I'm holding deeply inside of myself and that more or less dictates certain boundaries to the way that I'm going to think about things and the way that I'm going to respond and act in the world. If I want to start to deconstruct that, the questions that I ask are going to take me into a space of being less comfortable. I'm
Mm.
going to deal with a world that's no longer a known world.
Mm-hmm.
Things are going to become confusing, and so I'm going to have to deal with this. I mean, I was thinking about it maybe as a high energy state, or my vision of this heat map was one where you'd come from your comfortable place of knowing where you stand, and then rise up on the heat map so that you're opening up onto this sprawling plane that you're gonna like search through to
Mm-hmm.
find some new place that you can sink to a maybe a deeper energy well, but at least a at least an alternate view of things so that you
Mm-hmm.
think about things differently, see them differently. I don't know, I encounter the limitations of your previous viewpoints.
Yeah, that reminds me of No Man's Land in World War One with trench warfare, where like sometimes you have to go over the top. You might get shot. You'll probably get shot or blown up. But if you want to get anywhere, you have to go over the top at some point. I really like that analogy.
And I feel like all of us are more or less in that position because you don't just stagnate.
Mm-hmm.
You always have this continuously evolving, growing, transforming, and changing style and stance that you have in the world. You're always building novel layers to the psychology that you have and complexifying your understanding. You build new neural connections to represent the things that you have encountered since childhood, the density of synapses.
Right, and it happens whether you're aware of it or not,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're not aware of it. The less you are aware of the inputs that are coming in, the more they're affecting you.
Yeah, by having awareness of it, there's a sense in which we're always filtering through the incoming data and allotting it to the different categories that we've already developed. And so if you're cycling the categories that you've already developed in to pick up that data, then it can become something that's already integrated in a certain way. It may be that the categories that we have can be useful, but I think that in most cases, maybe all cases, there's a diversification of the categories and a expansion of our interpretive potential that can open up the territory, and it plays out in effectively every feature of modern society because it's a deepening understanding of the facets and principles at play that allows for recalibrations of scientific models, for example. You
Mm-hmm.
develop a model about how an atom works, and it works so well, but then eventually plum pudding's not good enough, and you gotta get a better, more representative model that fits the data sets that you pull from it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, as you develop a new model, you develop a new technology that reflects the new way of seeing things that you've developed, and you sort of incrementally build up uh, deeper and deeper ways of meaningfully interacting with the world so that the data doesn't mean the same thing, and so now you got to recalibrate your model again to reflect the changes in what the data meant when you misinterpreted it what it was the first time
Right.
because you were operating under faulty assumptions and received that data as something that it wasn't quite.